Welcome to the Nevcast, where three bros talk business, art, justice, and the pursuit of Jesus.
Any day above ground is a good day.
Get ready to laugh, cry, and kiss 30 minutes goodbye with Peter Nevland,
Dave Nevland,
and
Rashid.
Here we are back again with Amy Nevland. We're going to get into part 2 and talk a little bit more about birth and hospitals and all the wisdom that Amy has to share from ATX Doulas.
Woo. That's right. And doctors and nurses went into the field of the medical field out of, an internal motivation to be that. Right. But it's hard in our current state for them to actually continue to be as much like that, to continue to be as focused on that state of providing that for all the people that in their practices.
Right.
These
Absolutely.
days. It's crazy.
I know fantastic nurses and I know fantastic doctors and I know that that's their heart. And
Absolutely.
I know that they come in and sometimes they are just doing and saying the sweetest things for these clients that are having babies. And I know that is actually them taking the time out to say those things and to massage a mom until the doula gets there. If the doula's not there yet, that is above and beyond. They actually don't have time to do that because they are so strapped for time. Austin is one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. The surrounding counties are some of the fastest growing counties in the nation. So we sometimes have babies born in, like we call them, birth storms. I mean, babies just come all in big groups. So I know when they're busy, they need to go chart and they need to go check on another mom and they need to go do this. And so them taking the time out to do that is above and beyond. And shout out to those nurses because I know you guys are there. And that is filling that gap between physical health and emotional health and spiritual health, because we're not just physical beings. And one of our I would say pet peeves in the midwifery and doula world is happy mom, happy baby. That is I feel like that's the mantra, right, that you're gonna get. I feel like that's a baseline goal. Like, I hope everyone is healthy and doesn't die.
Right.
Dude, that's a baseline goal. Cool.
Yeah.
But how do you measure happiness and how do you measure success or empowerment when it comes to birth? When it comes to that kind of portal that people walk through into parenthood, you have to actually go through some sort of change. And you have to actually, if you didn't grow up during those 9 months of pregnancy, there's some sort of dying to self and growing that you have to do in the birth process.
Right.
And part of that is making decisions and owning this birth. And if it's taken away from you because it's so medicalized, then there's part of becoming a parent that's also somewhat lost in a way. When you choose to give up your autonomy.
Interesting, yeah.
So
that goes into a little bit what we talked about last night, because we're hearing this phrase kind of a lot. I trust my doctor, and you're talking about this. When you're talking about giving up autonomy, but staying in the game and knowing what's happening. And where do you get that? And how can you get that? And the nurses and doctors can't quite. They're a little bit handcuffs in some ways,
right,
from providing fully in that way. So should we just trust our doctors?
Yeah, I mean, man, that's like
you're about to have birth.
A setup question. So it's controversial.
But Dave deals in setup questions.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The controversy. So
that's why we do this podcast.
First of all, like to hit on three things. So first of all, I feel like, to go back and finish my thought, happy mom and happy baby includes emotional, happy spiritual happy. Like there's a holistic kind of component to
Wait.
how
Those are not just like bonus.
not just healthy. Yeah, those aren't just bonus. Like we're talking
You're saying
about
emotions are essential
to
life.
to life, and
What?
to a mom's postpartum well-being.
Your spirit is essential
And
to life.
physicality.
And
It affect your
It
physicality.
will affect the way you give birth. So
This is revolutionary. This is
actually,
big.
so studies have been done on it,
I
and
know.
it's amazing how they always conclude that it is important that a mom's not just physical well-being, but emotional and spiritual, holistically, her well-being is taken care of in labor and delivery, and a doula helps with that. And so that's a proven, known,
Right.
scientific thing. I don't really know why insurance companies don't cover it more often.
It's so
Isn't that-
intangible and
it's
hard
so
to measure.
intangible. It
Yeah.
is. However,
Much less than the money.
they will save money. If it comes down to money, they will save money if they cover doulas, because actually doulas help prevent. Is a preventative thing, just
help
like going
help
to a
prevent
gym is a
emergencies. Yeah.
preventative thing. So
They
anyway,
prevent it
that
costing as much.
lowers the cost.
that will
Right.
lower your healthcare
Yeah,
cost.
absolutely.
Not just in the birth or prenatal, but also in the postpartum period. When we're looking at systemic issues, especially in the state of Texas, we're looking at also postpartum issues in women of color and prenatal issues in women of color. And who fills those gaps when you only go to a doctor once a month or once every few weeks, or in the postpartum period, you have your baby, you're discharged, you go home, you don't go to a doctor again until 6 weeks out. And the first doctor you see is your about day 6 of life. You actually go to
your what is it? You go to the your pediatric
doctor.
Yeah.
right?
How much training has your pediatric doctor had on postpartum anxiety and depression?
Yeah, nothing, because
Right.
they're trained to deal
The
with
kids.
kids.
Right, exactly. So then you have this huge gap in time where a mom could be struggling physically
Yeah.
and mentally.
Yeah.
And who sees it?
Right.
So what they found was if they can fill in these gaps holistically with home visits, which a midwife does anyway, but a
Right.
doula can also do, any trained person can do, a lot of those simple things can be found prenatally and postpartum
Right.
and can be dealt with faster. So yes, I can make a big story for the case of doulas, and why it's not just happy mom, happy baby at the time of birth. Like
Right.
there is a holistic kind of component to it. But when it comes to the whole trust your doctor thing, okay, here's the scenario. So my doctor, and I see this day in and day out, I'm not making this up. It's not just some, play scenario I've had in my head. I see this every day.
Right.
Because I have a very high numbers business. So
Right.
it's in the hundreds we get to watch, so I can have a good statistical baseline over the last 10 years. So basically, over the last 2 years, there's 2 studies that have come out that have, 3 years, there's 2 studies that have come out that have said, inducing a mom at 39 weeks may not be a bad idea. In fact, it could potentially lower her C-section rate. By inducing her at 39 weeks. Okay. So if for anyone that deals in numbers, you're only as good as your numbers.
Right. Sure.
And you're only as good as how you interpret your numbers.
How you interpret them, yeah, because you
Okay.
can torture data to say anything you want. Right?
Oh man. So you look at these studies and you think, man, I think if I'm a busy doctor and my clients want me to deliver their babies, then what is the best way to ensure that? I can induce them.
Induce them, right.
Now,
Schedule.
yes, is this going to save potentially a few statistical points of people who may develop preeclampsia later on? That is the theory, and it is possible. But if you look at yourself autonomously and say, man, I'm healthy, my baby's healthy, I don't have these issues. And on top of that, genetically, my mom, my sisters, my grandma, we all are long gestators, like elephants. I mean, we will keep our babies in till 42 weeks. In fact, most moms will gestate for 41 weeks, give or take a few days. So the studies say just because a mom will usually gestate to 41 weeks, give or take a few days, should she? So all of a sudden we have a shift medically in the past few years of saying maybe how a mom's body actually wants to do it is wrong.
What?
How can we fix it?
Wow.
So it's even becoming even more medicalized. So what I
Wow.
see day in and day out is, wow, you have this mom who's 38 and a half weeks, and she is uncomfortable. She did not sleep well. She's stuffy nose. She's crying all the time. She's having prodromal labor, and she goes into her prenatal visit, and the doctor looks at her and says, man, I'm on call next week on Tuesday. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? Oh, I feel like I feel terrible. I just want to have this baby. This is really hard. It's stressful at work, and I just want to have this baby, and blah, blah, blah. And the doctor says, well, you are measuring a little bit big. Your baby is a little bit on the bigger side. It might be safer to go ahead and have your baby at 39 weeks, and that way, we can just schedule it. If you go into labor before then, great,
Right.
But maybe it's safer to do that, and maybe we can just go ahead and have an end date. Does that feel okay to you? And the mom's like, yes, hell yes, I'm ready to have my baby. Okay,
Right.
fantastic. Let's do this. So she feels good about it. Happy mom, happy baby. I trust my doctor. My doctor wouldn't tell me something that would hurt me, so it must be fine if my doctor says it's fine. So I get in there, my mythological pregnant self. I get in there. I go into this 39-week induction. They schedule me to come in at, let's say, 7 p.m.
Right.
So I'm all excited all day. I didn't sleep very good the night before, and I show up at 7 p.m. and there's some nurses, some training nurses. They say, okay, here's what's going to happen. Put on this gown. We need to monitor you. We need to monitor the baby, and we're going to give you this medication. It's going to soften your cervix overnight. And what was the last thing you ate? Okay. If you're still hungry, maybe we can eat in the morning, maybe not, but from now on, here's your juice, here's your ice chips, okay? And here, I'm gonna stick this thing up in your vagina. I'm gonna come in every, 30 minutes, hour. I'm gonna say I'm gonna come in 30 minutes and then don't, and come in 2 hours later. I want you to try to sleep overnight. Everything's gonna be beeping. There's gonna be people coming through the halls yelling, and you need to sleep. Okay, this also could make you crampy. This medicine also, and so this is what is not said. This medicine also can cause contractions that are too hard and too strong that stress out your uterus,
Sure.
stress out your baby. So therefore, we need to monitor you. It can what now? What? Oh, well, it's okay. It's safe because we're monitoring you. It's totally fine. Okay, so I'm going to try to sleep. How do I do that? Well, here's an Ambien. Have you ever taken Ambien before? Nope. Okay, I got to take an Ambien. All right, and then guess what happens to Amy, who's little? I hallucinate. Yeah. So I'm trying to sleep in this weird dream world, and I'm hallucinating, but also I'm having these weird cramps all night, and then people are coming in and checking my blood pressure and doing all this stuff. Okay, so in the morning, the doctor comes in really nicely caffeinated. Hey, good morning. Let's check your cervix. Let's see what's going on. Are you excited? Did you sleep okay? No, I know. It's hard to sleep in the hospital. Let's see what's going on with your cervix. Well, it's a little bit softer than it was before, but not quite. I'd like to go ahead and start Pitocin, though, and break your water. It's going to go ahead and give your little cervix a 1-2 punch, and let's hopefully have a baby by 5, because I have a tennis tournament at 7 that I need to get to. I'm not making this up. I definitely have heard this.
He said that.
Out loud.
Jesus.
Not in his head. Don't say that out loud. So the mom's like, okay, I guess this is what we do. Punch my cervix. So broken water, going up on the Pitocin. This mom is starting to feel some good contractions. Wow, things are starting to kick her in her butt. And you know what? This is actually really hard. I thought I wanted to go unmedicated for a while, but man, this is really hard. I want to go ahead and get the epidural. The nurse is like, yeah, great. Tell me when you want your epidural. I can go ahead and get it for you right away. There's no need for you to feel uncomfortable whatsoever because we have epidurals. Oh, okay. Well, I want an epidural. Okay. All right, here's your epidural. Oh, wow, your blood pressure is crashing because you already have super low blood pressure. I hope the baby's heart rate can handle this for the next 30 minutes because the baby's heart rate goes down. Oh, okay, the baby's heart rate went back up because we gave you some medicine, kind of like super shot of caffeine that'll just bump your heart rate up and the baby's heart rate. Okay, everything's fine now. Cool, everything's stable. You're stable, baby's stable. Let's check your cervix now. Well, you're still 1 centimeter.
Mm.
You know why? I'll tell you why.
Wah, wah.
And your water's broken.
Oh,
What are you going to do now? You can't leave the hospital.
Right.
Your water's broken.
Inducing didn't work.
Not yet. So we keep going up on Pitocin.
Right.
Because that is the only game plan we have left. And if it
Right.
works, great. If not, you have a cesarean. Why did it not work? We release oxytocin all day long. We laugh. We have sex. Dave and I do. Okay.
Dave and I don't.
You ride a horse, you watch a funny movie, whatever. You release oxytocin. Why are these pregnant moms not going into labor? Because you have to have oxytocin receptors that are activated and ready to go to receive the oxytocin that your body dumps in when you're ready to go into labor. And that, in turn, those myoepithelial cells that receive the oxytocin then contract. And they only can do that when those oxytocin receptors, enough of them, are activated and ready to go. So when do you have enough? Everybody's body is totally different. Wow. It is a mystery, and no medical community has figured out how
to get those
to
receptors,
manipulate that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ready and get
so
them active.
all we can do is try to manipulate what and copy what our body naturally does from what we understand. But what we understand is so finite. So when we say, I trust my doctor, know that your doctor is not God. Your doctor only understands what your doctor was taught however many years ago.
Right.
And your doctor only understands what your doctor was taught however many years ago, and then however many births they have seen. And then they are literally just learning new things, you hope. But I'm just a lowly doula.
Right.
And I read
a
these...
slave.
A
You're
slave,
just a slave.
No, nonetheless.
Maybe
and
a
I
helper.
read this,
Sounds
and
better.
I read this, and I'm like, oh, wow, okay. So 10 years ago, I'm like, oh, cool. So delayed cord clamping, that's a thing. And I talked to doctors about it, and I am told that is not a thing. That won't work because of this, and this. It doesn't help, and in fact, it will hurt because of this. 10 years ago, I was told this by doctors.
Delaying the clamping of the cord, the umbilical
Yeah.
cord,
So that
you
all
can
the
cut it
nutrients
off.
can continue
You
to
delay
flow into
doing
the...
that.
So that you can
have to clamp it in
continue
order
to
to cut it
have
off. But you-
oxygen-rich, stem cell-rich, iron-rich blood perfusing back to the baby at the moment of birth, because up
Right.
a third of its cord blood volume is left in the baby at the moment of birth. So does the baby need it? Probably.
Because
So,
people were cutting the cord really quickly after birth,
which
right?
we all probably had that in the 70s, and we're fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
well, our bodies can compensate, but could it be better than
Right.
if we didn't mess with
Right.
it? Yeah, and studies found that actually in some instances, in a lot of instances, it could be better. So did I trust, if I would have been like, it's okay to immediately clamp my cord, I'd be trusting my doctor. But my doctor is only as good as that medical knowledge that they have, and they are not God. On top of that, they're only as good as this amount of sleep they had that night, and as good as their kids were good that day and not failing, or didn't run away and wasn't found with drugs, and they didn't have a tennis tournament and weren't distracted by this terrible birth they had right before they walked into your birth, and weren't distracted by the fact that they had to go to a scheduled C-section in 5 minutes, so therefore you got an unnecessary episiotomy.
Right.
Not because your doctor knew it was necessary for you and your baby, but because they, quote, said, you're seeing my impatient side tonight, because they had to go somewhere else in 5 minutes. So yes, I am a little bit jaded because I have seen those one-offs in doctors. Sure. And yes, I am amazed by how they just some of the stuff that they are able to do, and moms that they are able to save. I've seen so many necessary things, but I've also seen unnecessary things. So my takeaway here is your doctor is a person.
Yeah.
And you do not get to throw away your autonomy to another person.
Mm-hmm.
That is a gift of God to you. And it's a responsibility, and it's huge.
Yeah.
And I see women...
And it's empowering. Come on.
I see women
Yeah.
throw it away every day. You can be a white woman, you could be a woman of color, and you're throwing away your autonomy by just saying, I trust my doctor. Well, cool. Trust your doctor, but also trust your brain.
Yeah.
And
Trust your body.
trust your body, and do some research, because your particular doctor in that particular moment may not be the best particular doctor for you and your needs. There might be a better one out there for you. And if you have a weird feeling about it, you should probably go to a different care provider, because you have mama's instinct. You should trust your mother's instinct and trust your brain. So brain, here's your takeaway, people. What are the benefits here? What are the risks here? What are the alternatives that I have? What do my instincts say? And what about no or not right now? That's how you can get informed consent in about 2 minutes without feeling like you're fighting, because no one wants to fight. No one likes confrontation. I hate it.
Right.
And I've only had like a confrontation with one nurse ever in the last 10 years, and she was a traveling nurse, and she did not understand the culture of the hospital here.
Right.
And I was right, and she was wrong, so it doesn't matter.
It makes me think,
Dazzling.
that when you're talking about, these oxytocin receptors and how nobody knows how to activate them, it makes me think, the first thought that I had in my mind was trying to get clouds to drop the rain.
Yeah.
And then the next thing,
seeding the clouds.
And the next thing that I thought was,
exploding things.
There's this passage, long passage discourse at the end of the book of Job.
Yeah.
And God asks Job all these questions.
Where were you? Where were you when I did this?
Yeah, and he says, he actually asks, can you cause the clouds to give rain? Do you know when the deer gives birth? Do you know how the bones are formed in the womb? And that book is the most ancient book that's in the Bible.
Right.
Yeah.
Thought to be composed before Moses.
Genesis.
Right. And sometime even, there's references to dinosaurs in there, and and people say, oh, well, humans and dinosaurs didn't, exist at the same time. Okay.
Sea monsters.
I don't know. But anyway, somebody's talking about something that sounds a whole lot like a dinosaur in there. But the questions that it's asking in the most ancient book that's in the Bible still cannot be answered today. And God's solution is, if you can't answer those things, how can I tell you where evil comes from and expect you to be responsible for it? But you notice that even though God himself, who knows the answers to all these questions, still does not come in, intervene, and say, no, your body's doing it wrong, he comes and he says, you can do this.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
As if he knows
Hey, here's a
how it
family
really
member.
works.
Here's someone who wants to care for you. Listen to them. And let's walk through this together. This thing that's happening to you, it's normal, it's natural, it doesn't feel right because you've never experienced it before, but you are going to make it. I've seen other people do this. That's that is the voice of God to us so many times. You tell me how many things that you've gone through that have been difficult, and when has God come in and said, oh, you know what? We just need to cut it off right now. We need to just get it out right now. God doesn't do that. He goes, come on, I'm going to walk with you through this, and you're going to overcome this. And at the end of it, you're going to have this sense of confidence and sense of courage that then you can give to others and become a mother yourself, or become a father, so that your focus gets off of yourself and starts to get to be on other people. I just think that's just incredible. And we just go, medical, my medical book. Why do we throw this stuff away? It's so simple. It's right in front of us, and you're talking about it. You're just like, you see it every day. And what I'm thankful that we have people like you, Amy, and like so many other different doulas, so many other people, and there are good doctors out there who are waking up and going, this doesn't seem right. I'm thinking rather than just reading the book, and we need to do it a different way. I just want to say, if you're out there and you're going, the way this stuff is set up is not right, and I'm not sure how to do it, I just encourage you, listen to the voice of God. He says, you're right. That's a lack of justice, and I want to help bring justice. Like, God always wants to bring in justice. He wants to bring, not injustice, he wants to bring justice in to the situation where it needs to be, so that people can be the glorious creations he made us to be, and become the royalty that he made us to be, so that we can then bring his kingdom and bring his order, because his kingdom is good. His kingdom is life. His kingdom is where we flourish, and we need that. And so I just say thank you, to you and the medical community, and thank you to all the people out there who are going for it, who are listening to the voice of the Lord, and who are walking through tough things and bringing others with them into a place of wholeness and goodness. So.
Yeah, I love you too. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
So smart.
Yeah.
This person's my biggest fan.
That's right. So anyway,
I keep
here we
them
are in
around.
the Nevcast. You know, we might even have to do a second episode or something like that and talk to you about more stuff, because there's, I mean, clearly you're passionate about women and birth and everything, but also, I mean, I think you probably have quite a bit of insight on running a business, or you know, or even talking to people that you know, normally don't get treated well in society, and helping them out and stuff too. So anyway, thanks for coming.
We keep
Yeah.
learning.
On, Amy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's it for the Nevcast this time. Join us next week when we talk justice, business, and art in pursuit of Jesus. We will see you soon.